I've been splurging out on some new gear. So I'm planning a couple of videos to show you what devices I've picked up and how they're working out. One issue I have is I live in a very small house. All my retro stuff is in the spare room, but that's also my office. So as much as I'd love to have an original Atari ST monochrome monitor, I just don't have the space. What I do have is two high-def modern monitors that I use for my day job. Now, purists will sneer at this, that you should use the right period specific equipment, but hey, needs must. Best route for getting the ST's output to my displays is via the monitor port. The ST's monitor port is capable of outputting both RGB and monochrome signals, and there are choices out there to convert the monitor output to a connector format that works well, or at least better, in the modern world. Usually your two choices are SCART or VGA. I mean, neither of those are exactly modern formats, but hey. I mean, some cables also come with a switch to convert between RGB and monochrome output, and that is something I really wanted, so I chose this device. I picked it up on eBay for £30 including postage and packaging, and I really like the form factor. When connecting retro kit to modern equipment, I often end up with what feels like miles of daisy-chained cables, converter boxes, that kind of thing. This device, when plugged in, is really quite low profile. It comes with a switch to choose between mono and RGB output. The seller of the device did say that because the video signal goes through that switch, it may cause signal degradation, at least over time if you're constantly, moving the switch between color and mono and the tracks get worn or dirty, it could affect it. They do sell two other versions of this where the choice is hardwired, literally hardwired. But if you are going to be swapping, I really wouldn't recommend buying, say, a monochrome device and a color device. The stress and strain of removing and plugging in these units into the ST, I think, would be detrimental to the health of the equipment. They feel solid enough, but I wouldn't want to stress them. Now, I'll stick a link below to the eBay page for this device. It's not an affiliate link, it's just a link. So anyway, job done, right? Well, I mean, even if my monitors had VGA input, which they don't, there's an issue. The Atari outputs video signals at strange rates. I mean, probably you could get away with a monochrome if we had a VGA connector on my monitor, because it's done at 72 Hz vertical refresh rate and 31.5 kilohertz horizontal rates. However, the medium and low res signals, they run at either 50 Hz or 60 Hz. I mean, that's fair enough. That's NTSC or PAL. But the horizontal refresh rate is 15.75 kilohertz, and that is just too low for most modern monitors. So I tried this connector direct VGA input into an old monitor of mine, and it just said no signal. It just couldn't pick up that 15.75 kilohertz signal. So what's the solution to this? I've bought a number of cheap converters over the years. Composite to HDMI, SCART or HDMI, and they're all the same, built into tiny black boxes and pretty naff. So I decided to get a good one. I had two choices, go for a RetroTink or an open source scan converter. And I opted for the OSSC, really on price. I mean, technically it's not as capable as the RetroTink, it's just a scan doubler or tripler. Or quadrupler, if that's a word, I don't know. But it's proving very good. It's working well with other gear that I have, like my CPCs, my QL, etc. And it has a plethora of different inputs and can be controlled and adjusted in a very precise way through the remote control. We'll come on to that in a bit. I mean, out of the box, monochrome mode looked pretty rough, I would say. The menus were off the screen and the background suffers from extreme banding. A quick Google search found an Atari Age forum page and a set of settings from a guy called Brian Followell that improved the visuals. I'll put a link to that page in the description as well. So these settings are horizontal sample rate of 800, horizontal sync length of 96, horizontal back porch, whatever that is, set to 100, horizontal active to 640, VSync length 2, vertical back porch to 34, and vertical active to 420. This pushed the picture down and more into the center. I mean, I'm probably, if you look at the screenshots, I'm going to probably have to tinker with this a little bit more because there's quite a big gap at the bottom. But I think the results are much better. Now, my monitors are 34-inch WQHD displays. As such, displaying the whole Atari screen, full screen, is a bit of a stretchy pile of ugliness. I mean, I guess I could get used to it, to be honest, but, this is a first world problem, but... the monitors do, however, have a picture-in-picture capability. So using a 50-50 horizontal split and sending the ST to one side yields a view that's fairly close to 4:3. And I'm happy with those results. And I think you'll agree they look pretty sweet. So just to finish off this video, just a quick little mini bit as well. I've always been really happy with the condition of my ST, and it's got very little yellowing, and I'd like to keep it that way. So I decided to buy a dust cover to protect its good looks. And I mean, nothing is more period authentic than a dust cover on a 1989 to 90s computer. I did a quick search on eBay and came up with two possibilities, both from the same seller. One with an embroidered logo on it and one without. The price difference was £8. So obviously I went for the cheap one. Since they're both from the same seller, I assume £8 is reflective of the cost of getting the embroidery done. I think perhaps becoming a software developer was not necessarily the best career choice in that case. Anyway, I'll put a link below to the seller, and here you can see how beautiful she looks when she's ready to be put to bed at night. Alright, that's it for this video. I mean, in the next video in this little mini series, might not be the next video on the channel, we'll be talking about hard drive replacements and the hard drive replacement that I chose, which I'm not going to tell you to keep you in suspense. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.